Are we ready, Martin? Hello, everybody. There are a lot of things we can talk about, but we are trying to make changes in the world. So let's talk about things that are simple and effective and leave the larger pieces for later. I suggested to Roha that we do this every other week or something, because Saturday nights are play nights for most people, for those of you for whom it's night, and you don't need to be listening to me talk when you could be out playing. So if we do this half the time, maybe the first and third Saturday, it means you can play the rest of the time. Roha will set up the details on that. Can anybody here tell me what katon is? All right. Anybody? Anybody else? Is that good? Your katon is your true self? In a sense, yes, your true self, your integrity self. Katon, the self, is the truest self, the deep self. It's the peace that came with you into this lifetime and the peace that you're trying to live out. Why does it matter? Well, see, this is a question maybe many people haven't considered. Why does katon matter? Let me suggest that for most of you, this life is a very real thing. This is all you know, all you remember. But I can tell you, and someday you will understand for yourself, that you've had many lifetimes, and that you'll have many more. That, in essence, this is just a short journey. It may seem long, it may seem 40 or 60 or 80 years, like a very long time. But in the millions of years you've been alive and lived lifetime after lifetime, this is like an afternoon trip to the supermarket. And each time you go into a life, you may pick people that you're going to go with, people who are very close to you. Let's do this life together. Let's be siblings. Right? You be mom this time and I'll be the kid. Let's actually be born in different places so we have to find each other. And we play games like this. This life, people will tell you it's a school and you're here to learn a lesson, and that's nonsense. What you can really understand, what you can ken with the limited brain of yours is very little. But when you leave this body and go back to your larger self, you will already have so much of knowledge, of understanding, of awareness. You're not here to gain knowledge. You're here to experience. This is, some fast food places or pizza places are set up for children. And they have these giant nets full of plastic balls you can jump into and things you can climb on. And the place is full of 2 to 10-year-olds running around and screaming and playing and having a great time. This is really what life is about. Life is a chance to come in and experience. Yeah, you may learn some things while you're here. You'll probably get back from here to your real self and say, oh, I already knew that. But, in this lifetime you'll be learning it. What's important is the experience. Now I want you to recognize as much as possible that you interpret the world around you based on your experiences. Your cats are being a bit wild. If every time you've ever seen a dog, it's tried to kill you, you're going to think all dogs are terrible things. And when you see a dog, you're going to run screaming or chase it away. And you'll just assume that all dogs are bad, even though many dogs are friendly and loyal and great companions. But you'll base it on your experience. Does it make sense that you base things on your experience? Everything new you interpret comes from your experience. Now, your experience, anybody who's under 25, your entire life has been about going to school. I mean, since you were self-aware, you've been stuck in preschool, you've been stuck in homeschool, you've had to go to grade school and high school, and many people go to university or trade schools, graduate schools, postgraduate schools. Your entire life is spent in school and learning. And so you look at something too big to understand, like the question, why am I here? What's the meaning of all this? And you immediately interpret it based on your experience. Like being scared of a dog because all the dogs you know have barked at you. All that you know is school, schooling, learning, study. And so when people look at this lifetime, they say, why are we here? Well, it must be school, learning, study. But it's not. This is an unwise assumption based on our prejudice, based in most of your life being spent acquiring knowledge. You're not here to learn. You have, in your larger self, vast amounts of knowledge. You can't even conceive of it. It's a bit like, say, a brilliant particle physicist taking lots of ecstasy and going to a club full of loud noises and flashing lights and people dancing and fun and saying, I'm here to learn. I'm here to study molecular physics. No, you're there to dance. You're there to play with people. You're there to have fun. You're not there to learn. The drug actually takes your mind and turns it almost completely off and hypes your senses. And see, this life is like that. You are brilliant in your larger self. And in this lifetime, you're very, very limited. You have a very simple mind, but your senses are hyped. You've got emotions that are so strong they're often out of control. You've got physical feelings and experiences that are so huge that they just shut down your mind completely. Think of having a great dream. Your mind is hardly involved at all. You're just coasting along. Think of, for those of you who know, great sex. Your mind pretty much goes away. Think of an amazing meal, or riding a motorcycle way too fast, or skiing down a dangerous slope, or water skiing. You're not solving equations and doing things complicated in your brain. You're totally focused on the experience. Can you stop those cats? This life is like that. This life is about experience. And now that you're all paying attention to the cats, come back to me, please. I want you to understand this. You're not here to learn. Why does that matter? Well, there's two very important reasons. And the first is that everybody who's told you about learning has graded you. And so you create philosophies, you create beliefs, you create attitudes that say, well, this life is about learning, and so I'm going to be graded. And then you invent things like heaven and hell. Well, those who pass, they go to heaven, and those who fail, they go to hell. All kinds of nonsense like this. There's no hell. And there's just you returning to a larger self that is much more aware, that sees, that feels, that gets so much more. There is no grade on this life. The closest you'll get to a grade on this life is when you leave it, somebody saying, what was your purpose for being there, and did you do it? Because I don't care who you are, those two questions are the first ones you're going to be asked after you die, after you end this life. What was your reason for being there, and did you do it? So to bring this back to where we started, Ka-ton, the true self, the deep self, the integrity self. Why does it matter? Because this life is brief. It's like a trip to the grocery store. Let's say you make an agreement with your spouse or your roommate or your friend. Oh, I'll go to the store and pick up some beer and bring it back so we can, watch the game. I'll go and pick up some eggs so we can cook breakfast tomorrow. You go, you come back. They say, where's the beer? Where's the eggs? Oh, I didn't get it. Why not? That's what you went for. That was your entire purpose for being there, was to get some eggs. What are you thinking? Well, I got some tofu and a little lobster. Yes, but you went to get eggs. What good is tofu going to do us for breakfast? And if that sounds silly or simple, it's because it is simple, not because I'm making it silly. But you come here in this very brief lifetime. It may seem a long time looking ahead or looking back at it, but it's just a flash, just a blink, and it's gone in your larger time span. And you come here for a reason. If you don't live up to that reason, you have to come back and do it again. Oh, I didn't get the beer. I have to go back to the store again. You come for a reason. If you don't really ken that reason and experience it, then you've kind of wasted your time here. You may get something else out of it, but you didn't get what you came for, and you're going to end up coming back because some part of you wants this experience. Not the learning, just the experience. This is why Katon matters. If you become an amazing attorney or a great religious leader or a famous politician or a Hollywood actor, but your purpose in this lifetime was to learn about family and relationships, and you don't do that, it doesn't matter what you've done. Imagine flying from the US or Asia or Russia all the way to Paris just to visit the Louvre. And you sit down outside the Louvre. For those who don't know, that's the world's most famous museum. You sit down outside the Louvre all day and watch people come and go. But you never get inside and see anything by Da Vinci. You never see the Mona Lisa. You don't even get out back and see that famous glass pyramid that's out there. And you're going to come back and people say, well, did you see the Louvre? No. Why not? I never got around to it. What'd you do? I sat outside all day and watched people. It can be amazing to watch people. You can learn something, but you went to do a thing. You should do it. And you can't do it unless you know what it is. Unless you ken your purpose in this lifetime. This is why Katon matters. So I suggested that you can create almost anything in your life with 3 steps. It is Katon, find the truest self you can. Kamai, expand that true self. Kamai, the making. And then you take this thing that you want, that you really want, and you expand that Katon, using the Kamai, into what you truly want. And that's all. That you do this for 30 seconds to 3 minutes every day. Do it for 3 months. And watch yourself change. And I'm not sure that anyone is actually doing it. I don't know. I haven't talked to everybody. But what I'm telling you is here's a way to create just about anything in your life. You find your true self, Katon. You expand it out into the rest of you and the world around you, Kamai. And then you focus it into that thing you truly want. And it takes 30 seconds to 3 minutes a day of intense focus. And do that for 30 to 90 days. Just every day, without fail, whether you feel like it or not. And I said it before, but it may not have sunk in, so I'm saying it again. Pick one thing. If it's a new pair of shoes, or a trip to the zoo, or you want to learn to speak a different language, or become a ballerina, it can be big or small. pick something and do this every day. Ka-ton, ka-mai, expand into your particular dream. And don't change it. If every week or so your idea of it evolves and you change it, you may never get there. Pick something and keep doing this simple process with that something. And what you'll find is that you start to change and your life starts to change and new things come to you and new people come to you. And you have to be open to them. But you will, if you're open, get this thing you're looking for. So I'm suggesting strongly that everybody try that. And what I'd really like to talk about right now, and the real reason we're here tonight, is integrity. Integrity is the kamai, is the making, the expressing in your life of who you truly are. If you're truly someone bold and yet you act shy because you've never learned to communicate well, that lacks integrity. Integrity is not some big complicated thing. Integrity is a simple and obvious part of your life that you can apply every day, all the time, and every minute. With integrity, your life starts to have meaning, purpose. Without it, you're just spinning your wheels. You have no traction. You can go in many directions, but it's rarely more than dreams. And even if you get something remarkable, it's not satisfying. Because it's not who and what you are. Because there's no integrity behind it. And so integrity seems like a really small thing at a glance. But in fact, what will give your life passion and purpose and meaning, what will make your life substantive, is integrity. Living every moment in harmony with who you are. Now, many of you are learning about sensitivity. But if you go out in the streets and you're overwhelmed by all the emotion or the noise or the smells and you shut off your sensitivity, then you're not taking that learning and applying it to your life. You don't have integrity. You're going to come back and work with integrity or work with your sensing again at home and go out in the street and shut it off again. And you do this day after day, and after 6 months you say, I haven't made any progress. Why not? I'm not any more sensitive. I don't have any more control. I don't get it. It's because part of the time you're practicing being sensitive and part of the time you're practicing shutting it off. And you cannot move forward to something in life if you take 3 steps forward and 3 steps back and 3 forward and 3 back, day after day, year after year. You'll never get anywhere. You need to keep making the steps forward. And when it's too much, you don't back up. You just stop and sit down and breathe for a while. And when you're ready, you walk forward again. If you're learning about truth scanning, and you're not truth scanning everything people say to you, that lacks a little integrity. Now that you've got the skill, you need to apply it to your life so it can grow and develop into something. If you're trying to get over self-bashing, and so you beat yourself up a lot, but you're trying to stop, well, say that most of the day, all day, you stop yourself from doing it. And then, just for a few minutes at night before going to bed, or while you're in the shower, or while you're driving, you say, oh, you're an idiot. What could you be thinking? How could anybody ever like you? And on and on. Even if it's only 2 or 3 minutes. And then you go back and spend the rest of the day trying to get past the self-bashing. That moment, that brief time of loss of integrity, imagine you're trying to quit smoking. And for 3 minutes, 3 or 4 times a day, you smoke a cigarette. And anybody asks, you can say, oh, I quit smoking. But I saw you smoke 4 cigarettes yesterday. Well, yeah, but the rest of the time I quit smoking. And it doesn't work. You can't quit a behavior part of the time. You can't create a behavior part of the time and go back to its opposite the rest. You need the integrity to hold it. Integrity is one of the most important things we can do. And what does that mean? That means take what you're learning, what you care about, what matters to you, and apply it in every part of your life. If you're learning to shape, then practice shaping in small ways in every part of your life. If you're learning to source, then practice sourcing while you're talking to your parents. Practice grounding. When you're playing a computer game, when you're goofing off, when you're in the toilet or the shower, practice sourcing. If you're learning to sense, practice sensing and do it while you're cooking, while you're washing dishes, while you're vacuuming or cleaning house, while you're walking down the street. Every moment, all the time. Just gently keep practicing. And with this kind of attitude, this continued focus, this integrity, we see remarkably fast progress. And without it, we keep walking forward and walking back and never getting there. If there's one piece I want everybody to take away tonight, it is this. It's integrity. That if we can take what matters to us and apply it all day, every day, we'll make progress. And if we can't, we're likely to stall. Now, I hear some of you asking, not out loud, obviously, but the question is, how can I manage that? There's too much. There's 100 things I want to pay attention to, and 1,000 things I'd like to do, and there's so much chaos in my life, I can't do it all the time. Imagine that you're learning Tai Chi or a complicated dance, and your teacher shows you a 20-step move. 20 steps, this, that, arms, legs, your hips twisting, your feet rotating. And it's too much. You just can't get it all. And you can throw up your hands and say, I can't do this, there's too much for me. But what you can do is you can take any one of those steps, I don't care which one, and you practice it over and over. And you think about it when you're walking or driving home, when you're sitting that night with friends or family or in front of the television. You're processing, how does that step go? And every so often you just stop and practice it. And in a very short time, you'll really get that step. And once you've got it, then you take a different one. And you really focus on that until you've got it. And if you do it in this way, and you spend, say, 2 or 3 days really intensely focusing on a step, you can have all 20 steps down in a couple months. And you just have to weave them together, and you're doing this complicated dance or Tai Chi pattern, kata, and folks are looking at you saying, how did you ever figure that out? That's so complicated. But it's not. It's made of simple pieces. And you take one simple piece and do it over and over. You don't have to master everything all at once, and if you try, you'll get exhausted and you get frustrated and you'll quit. Don't. Just take one thing that really matters and focus on it over and over until it's easy. And then add in something else. And you say, but which piece matters? They all matter. I don't get it. And my response to you would be, well, if you can only focus on one, why not focus on the most important one? Talk to your teachers. Talk to the people around you. Scan it as deeply as you can and find the most important one and focus on that. Once you get the most important one done, and you can consistently do that thing, then you can go to the next one on your list and the next one. And in this way, you can get through in a fairly short amount of time a huge amount of stuff. Not by trying to get it all, but by trying to get some simple thing over and over until you've got it really deeply, and then going on to the next. And what you'll find is that you can make remarkable progress. So this is my answer to your question. The integrity matters. Holding this all the time, every day, this matters. And if it's too much for you, then find one thing, one piece, one expression, one kamai, and hold that. And if you've got time and you're relaxed and, nothing's going on, add in 2 or 3 more. Just as if when you were learning the kata or the dance, you've got this one move so well, go ahead and add the next 3. And just do that over and over for a while. And, life gets confusing or stressful or scary or overwhelming, then you cut back. But you never let go of that one piece. You make that one piece matter. You hold on to it with integrity and purpose. You want to be better at talking to people. You talk to people all day, every day. You go out and talk to strangers. When you're scared, when you're nervous, when you're afraid, you talk to people. You want to be better at self-confidence or standing up straight, then you practice that all day, every day without fail. You want to stop self-bashing. You do that all day, every day without fail. You take one thing and master in it. And it may take 3 days, it may take a week. Rarely does it take long. If something gets all your attention all day, every day, it shifts very, very quickly. If the one thing you want is something so big you can't find a way to get there, pick something simpler. I want to climb this giant mountain, but I've never climbed, even a small hill. Well, don't make that your one thing. Make learning to climb. Go to a gym and learn to climb, or join a club and learn to climb. Make that your one thing and practice it all day, every day. Think about climbing. Look at buildings and imagine how you'd climb them. Just make it part of your life every moment, all the time. Don't pick one so big that you can't get there. That's just self-handicapping. It may seem like holding a dream, but it'll actually handicap you, because what you want is always too big to get, and so you can never get closer to it. Rather, keep the end goal in mind, but pick a single step and learn that step really well. Now, anybody who's paying attention is probably going to say, wait a minute, there's a problem here. Integrity is taking who I am and holding on to that and expressing it all the time. Katon, kamai. But you're telling me I can change things in my life. I can become more confident. I can quit self-bashing. Well, when I look in my gut, I find self-bashing. So I have to express that. That's integrity. When I look in my guts, I don't find confidence. So I can't express that. I have to have integrity. If you're paying attention, you may notice that the idea of integrity, of really holding who you are, may actually oppose the idea of seeking change. And any one of you may be so utterly, delightfully, deliriously happy with your life, you don't want anything to change. If so, good luck to you. But I'm betting that most of you aren't deliriously, delightfully happy with everything in your life. And if you're not, then change is good. Change is your friend. Because if you're not really happy with it, change it. So there's this conflict, potentially, between integrity, being who you are, and changing who you are. I want you to understand that apparent conflict doesn't have to stop you. So you don't find somebody with a lot of flash or swagger when you look inside, but you want them to be there. So you don't find a great amount of self-confidence inside. So you're not good at talking to people inside. That's okay. In a sense, those are all expressions. If you can sense deeper, look deeper, feel deeper who you are, what you are, you're going to find somebody there. Somebody who's really you. And that somebody deep inside is going to be fairly stable and calm. Maybe very much asleep, but very, very much there. And if the expression, well, that person doesn't speak any languages, so I can't learn languages. That person is confident, so I can't be confident. No, that person is there. That person, that Katon self, is stable. All you have to do is find that. And if you can truly find it, even if only for 30 seconds, you can close your eyes and intensely find that self. What you're not going to find is something that self-bashes, or something that's insecure, or something that has trouble focusing or getting a job done, or you're not going to find the expressions. In a sense, this is the subject, the katon, the subject of the sentence. And the change you make is the verb. And you can put any verb you want after that subject and make a sentence. You eat, you sleep, you dance, you're beautiful. You can put anything you want after it. Integrity does not oppose change. Because we in our life change constantly and the world changes constantly. Integrity, in fact, requires change. Trying to hold things constant usually is a violation of integrity. Because life is breathing in and out. It's not breathing in and stopping because the air smells good. Eventually you need to breathe out and breathe in again. Life is change. I'd like to give you a simple example of integrity. What I'd like everybody to do, wherever you are, if possible, to sit and put your feet flat on the floor. And I want you to take a deep breath and we're going to sit this way for 3, maybe 5 minutes. And I want you to keep them there on the floor. Most people never do this. Every time they sit, they've got their feet crossed or the legs crossed or their arms crossed. What I want you to do is put your feet flat on the floor. And if your arms are crossed defensively, uncross them. Just open your body so that your feet aren't crossed, your arms aren't crossed, and just sit and listen for a while. And as you do this, I want you to feel, if you can, the energy moving in your shoulders. I want you to feel energy in your guts. I want you to feel the emotions. And what you'll find if you're paying attention is that your emotions actually get stronger because more energy is moving. If you're aware of tension in your shoulders, it will start to fade as more energy moves. If you notice the tension in your jaw, most of us have that from going, I don't want to do this. That will start to fade as you simply uncross your legs and sit and breathe for a while. And in a few minutes, I'm going to suggest that you sit and cross them and cross your arms, and we'll look at the difference. And while you're doing that, I'd like to talk about scanning. You might say, oh, I'm a shaper, I don't have to learn scanning, or I know all about scanning, what's the point of this? I'd like to clarify what it is for you and help you understand it, because there are some easy pieces to miss. I made up this word, scanning, because I do everything by feel. And it's a kind of feel most of you can't imagine. Because the feeling center for me is here at the heart, it's not down in the guts. And so when I process emotion, it's very differently than anybody else I know does. When I look at colors, I look at the feel of the colors. And when I close my eyes, I can't see colors, but I can remember the feel of a color. For me, everything is feel. And so when you hear me talk or read my words, you may see the word feel written a lot. But that doesn't mean that you have to feel. You may be better at hearing things, at meta-hearing. You may be better at a meta-sense of taste, at using your hands to feel out an aura or to shape an energy. Scanning can be done with many, many different senses. I do a kind of heart feeling. This isn't physical feeling. This isn't emotional feeling. Right? But because I do this, some people will try to feel, because they know that when I talk about it, I say feeling. But some people don't. Some people are visual. Roha, your teacher, doesn't do well at feeling. It's not her strong suit. But when she listens, she hears with remarkable clarity things that many people would miss. She can hear whether someone's telling a lie. She can hear when the energy is wrong in a person or when somebody's scared. She can do it by sound very, very well. A lot of the traditional New Agey types will talk about seeing and visualizing. You have to see what you want to achieve it. See it, believe it, and achieve it. They talk about, oh, you can see auras. I'm one of the most sensitive humans that I know in this world. And I know a lot of people. And I don't see anything. I look at people and I don't see auras. I don't see colors. I got nothing on seeing. For years, many years ago, who I was then thought I was broken in some way, thought I wasn't sensitive enough, thought I wasn't good at scanning, because I can't see. Books that teach seeing say, well, here's a very simple exercise. Close your eyes and visualize this. And I couldn't do it. Even simple exercises at seeing, I screw up. But in fact, I'm astounding at scanning. I just use a different sense. And so this is the first piece I want you to understand. I made up this term scanning so that I wouldn't say feel, so I wouldn't say see, and bias people. Intuition is the ability to sense a thing with perceptions that can't be explained visually. There isn't light bouncing off your retina. There aren't sound waves in your ears. There's not a tactile perception on your skin. Intuitive perception, intuition, is being able to perceive a thing in a way that can't be explained by the physical body. Everybody's got it. Some people are more dense and some people are more sensitive, but everybody's got it. That's the first step, intuition. But you hear people talk about women's intuition, or I know that something's wrong because, I sensed it. And that's incredibly uncontrolled. That's not scanning. If you don't happen to sense it, then it doesn't do you any good. If you want to sense it and the senses don't happen, it's like waiting until it rains to get a drink of water. Unless you live someplace like Seattle where it rains all the time, you're going to be thirsty. That's not scanning, because it's just waiting for intuition to come by and kick you in the butt. Scanning is a series of steps, and the first is to figure out your meta-sensitivity. While I'm doing this, I want you to pay attention to the energy in your shoulders and your guts. Scanning is paying attention to your particular sensitivity, whichever you're best at. You can figure it out. There are hundreds of different versions of sensitivity. Learning to turn it on and off at will. Learning to focus it down to a narrow point or spread it out. To point that to feel, to see, to hear. Something very specific or a broad range. And that's the first step. It's learning your modality of meta-intuitive perception. It's learning to focus that. Next, it's applying it in your life. Because you may feel a point of pain, or a strange feeling in your head, or a strange taste or tension in your throat. But you don't know what that means. See, I say feel. I should say scan. Right? You may scan something and not know what it means. But as you begin to apply this in your life, you'll notice, I get this feeling every time before it rains. I get this feeling every time before my mother calls. I see this color every time someone's unhappy. I hear this buzzing sound when someone's frustrated or disappointed. By applying your meta-intuitive perceptual modality, your way of sensing, over and over, you gather experiences, you build that into a kind of database inside. When I hear this sound, it means that. When I get this smell, it means this thing. And so once you've done that, you've figured your own modality, you've begun to practice it, you've begun to build a database inside, then scanning only happens then. Because only then can you do the important thing. You want to know, should I go to this concert? A friend says, should I get married? Should I buy a new car? Should I quit my job? Some big life choice. You take your modality and you present that question to it. Maybe you're a visual person, and this person says, well, should I quit my job and go work for them? And you ask yourself, you put yourself in a deep perceptive meta state, and you say, should this person quit their job right now? And what you get is a vision of a penguin, where you can't exactly tell them, oh, okay, penguin. And it's not very helpful. See, this is where scanning comes in, because you take that vision of a penguin and you run it by your database. Is there anything in there? Have I run across penguins before? Penguins to me always mean going long distances and, trying new things, or, right? So you ask the question, you get an intuitive answer, which was penguin. Then you take the penguin, you run it by your database, and you ask another intuitive question. Penguins to me mean fatherhood. So, is this person's issues with their father, or are they a father? And you ask one of these questions. And then you go back and scan it again. And you see a baby penguin. Okay, well, this gives me some information. You take that baby penguin image, you run it by your database, and you ask another question. Is this person who wants to quit their job a father? Is that what this is about? You see a big red stop sign, maybe. If you're a visual person, who knows what you see? Right? But you see something that says no. All right, then it's an issue with their father. And you see your penguin nodding and smiling. By doing this, I call it a left-right method. Meaning left, you intuitively sense. Right, you go out and logically ask a question. You do this over and over. This is scanning. So you figure out your meta-intuitive modality of perception, what you're best at, how you perceive things. You practice it, you build a database of information, and then scanning, you left-right it. You ask a question, you sense, you scan the answer, you ask another question, you scan the answer, and you do this over and over. You go back and forth until you can feel fairly certain of how the thing works. Scanning isn't just closing your eyes and saying, I feel tension in my guts. That's not enough. We teach that at the beginning as truth scanning, because generally if someone's lying to you, it will cause a tension in your guts. As a very simple way to learn scanning, and a very useful way, that's good. But scanning is much more than that. Now I want everybody to take a moment, take a deep breath, notice the tension in their shoulders, legs, the emotions they're feeling, and then I want you all to cross your legs and cross your arms for the next few minutes as I talk. Legs crossed and arms crossed. And I want you to watch the emotions change and the energies change and the attitudes change. Watch, feel, sense, scan. And this is one I feel that it's an obvious enough difference that almost everybody will sense it. So the process of scanning is something you can take a lifetime learning. And I don't care if you're a shaper or a source or a star tone and not a sensor. Everybody needs to be able to scan. And everybody should be able to scan. Imagine if you didn't know if you should go out with someone, or break up with someone, or start a family, or get married, or a new job, or move to a new place. Imagine living your life that way if you just had to guess. For me, this is tough to imagine because I've never had to guess. But I imagine for most of you, you can imagine it. But now imagine being able to scan out every choice. And you may not get all the answers, but you get a clear set of answers. You may find if you're in school and taking tests, that when you're not sure, you can scan out different possibilities. And you may find your GPA goes up slightly, your percent scores on the test go up slightly because you can scan. If you're in business and you're making investments, you can make better investments. If you're a judge in a courtroom, you can make better decisions. If you're a boss, you can make better hiring or firing decisions. No matter what you're doing, you can do it far better if you know how to scan. And so scanning takes some work to develop. Figuring out your own modality of perception can be very difficult. Your teachers can help you with that. Effectively, look for things that bother you the most. If loud noises bother you the most, you're a hearing person. If strong emotions make you freak out, curl up in a ball, strong physical sensations really strike you. I feel this here, this hurts, that's tense. That's probably your modality because it bothers you the most. It means you're the most sensitive to it. So figure out your modality. Begin to practice it. Begin to build this database. And then as you begin to build it, play with this scanning thing. Don't use it on serious questions at the start. Use it like a game at the start. Pick small things. Should I watch this television show or that television show? Doesn't have to be a big thing. We'll just, scan it. Not just, I don't like this, I feel that. No, actually scan it. Use your modality of perception. Ask the question, get a response. Ask another question, get a response. Left, right it back and forth until you've got a fairly clear answer. And you do that, you may find yourself watching a television show you're not used to. But you watch it and find exactly the answer you need. In 2002 and 2003, in this lifetime when I was in Hawaii, I was doing a lot of very deep intuitive seeking. And what I found is that they were running reruns of Buffy the Vampire Slayer every day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or something. And I must have watched every episode over several seasons. And every single time, without exception, every time I watched Buffy, she answered the question I was working on that day. It was creepy. I mean, Buffy is, it's a cute show. It's kind of a kid or teen show. But every single time, it gave me the answer I was looking for. It was just astounding. Somewhere I've got journals full of notes about how Buffy answered my question. Well, one of the people on Buffy answered my questions again. And so if you scan it out, really scan it, you may find amazing things happening. And sometimes you won't notice the results. You're at a restaurant and you scan out, should I have this dish or that dish? And it's very clear you have this one and you eat it and nothing happens. What you don't realize is that everybody who ate the other dish got food poisoning and went to the hospital. Unless you see it in the paper the next day that a rash of food poisonings happened, you won't even know. You take this flight instead of that flight. Well, you don't even know that that flight got delayed and had an extra 8-hour layover, and you would have missed everything you wanted to see. So sometimes you won't actually recognize the results of what you're happening. Sometimes you will, and it'll be amazing. But you'll get there. You'll get there by learning to scan. A little bit of work at first, but learning to scan. I want everybody to take a moment and look at your shoulders, the tension. Take a deep breath. Feel whether you can. Look in your guts, see the emotions. Find, disgust, frustration, annoyance, sadness, impatience. I want you to look for those things and see if you can tell a difference between when your feet were flat on the floor and your arms weren't crossed versus now. Of the people in this room, who can tell a difference? That's 100%. Well, if I raise my hand, that's everybody. Everybody can feel a difference. You can stop sitting that way if you like. The reason we do this exercise is because this is kamai. This is the expression of our integrity self. If I sit up straight, that is an expression of who I am. If I slouch, that is an expression of who I am. Every word, every thought, every action is an expression. And this is just a very simple exercise to show you that integrity, the kamai, the physical world shaping of who we are, changes us. In something so simple as crossing your legs, it changes you. If for the next few days you can live your life without crossing your legs or your arms, anytime you find yourself sitting down and crossing your legs, just stop. Recognize, oh, hey, and you stop. If you can live the next 3 days, 4 days, probably 3 days is enough, without sitting with your arms or legs crossed, what you're going to find is that some strange things are happening in your life. There's a lot more energy moving. That maybe a lot of emotions are coming up that have been buried. That new feelings or new awareness is coming to, that you're scanning better, that you're more grounded. You will see this difference. You will perceive this difference. It's clear. In just a few minutes, you can sense it. And this is what I mean by integrity. Pick a thing that matters to you and focus on expressing it all the time. Because when you express this, all locked up and crossed up, it's changing who you are and how your energy moves inside. And when you express this, it's changing who you are inside. And even a few moments of anger, fear, frustration, self-bashing, bitterness, loneliness, sadness, self-pity, control dramas, even a few minutes of that can screw up your energy, and you can spend hours clearing it out. So with integrity, the idea of integrity is we take something, some expression of ourself, and we apply it all the time. So just to summarize briefly, I encourage everybody to practice one thing, kato and kamai, one thing, for 30 to 90 days, just a few minutes a day, 30 seconds to 3 minutes. I encourage everyone to begin to really focus on living a life with integrity. If you want to be scanning all the time, you do it. If you want to be honest, then you be honest all the time. You pick one thing, 2 things, 3 things, right? And if it's too much, then you come back to just one thing and live your life with complete integrity in that one thing. And if you can't figure out what's a good choice, talk to your teachers. Ultimately, all the questions will come back to Roha, and I have great respect for her ability to give an appropriate answer. So, come to your teachers if you're not sure. But pick something or a small number of things and practice that integrity all day, every day. And just kind of as a game, try for about 3 days, sitting, walking, living without crossing your arms or legs. Just try for about 3 days, just as a game. And take notes on it. Talk about what you find. There's about 5 minutes left here. Anybody have any questions they want to ask? I will say before we go on that you may say, but I'm here in this life to do something, or I'm taking excuse me, Elfpath to get better at this. I want to go here. I want this. I want that. And these are stupid little exercises. What I want to suggest is these are not stupid little exercises. If you ever get good at what Elfpath teaches, if you ever get good at living your life, at sensing, at scanning, at shaping, at sourcing, if you ever begin to live with power and passion, these pieces are not simple or trivial. These are the fundamentals. This is, the plug on the computer. If it's not plugged into the wall, it's not going to turn on. All the rest is irrelevant if you don't get this. I talk about these things because they're not only simple, but they're fundamental. Everything depends on them. These things matter. Questions? You got to put it into words, or I may not answer it.
Yeah. Well, it's not about learning, but it is about learning at the same time.
What is about learning?
Life.
All right. Martin says that life is about learning, and I'm wrong.
Well,
So I'll just leave that there.
no.
I tell you based on thousands of lifetime experience that we're not here to learn. Martin tells you we are, so okay. That's fine. Roha, there's a question.
One of the kids would like to know, how do you know what's cartoon? How do you know what's really real?
How do you know what's the true self? What is Karton? The answer is that you can't be absolutely certain, because it takes years of really getting to know yourself. Imagine that you meet an amazing person and you fall in love and you start dating. Do you know everything about them? Do you know their favorite food, their birthday? Do you know whether they like cold drinks or hot drinks, what they do when they're scared, how do they respond to death, how do they handle trauma, do they like new things, are they scared? You don't know all that at the start. You live with them for years, you stay open and aware, you talk to them and you communicate, and in time you know them better and better and better. You begin to ken who this person really is, but it happens through gentle, persistent awareness and exploration. And this is the way with Karton. I don't suggest that you find your truest and deepest self. I suggest that you find the truest self that you can, and hold that. And the next day when you do it, you find the truest self you can, and you hold that. And the next day you do it again. And in time your awareness of who you are will grow and evolve into something that right now you can't imagine. And if I or someone who could were to tell you, you wouldn't believe. Because no, that's not me. That doesn't make sense. But by simply being open to the truest understanding, awareness, that you can, in time, you will come to truly get it.
One of them is asking, how does the not learning fit with people who teach meta and mundane?
I didn't say we don't learn, right? Many people have heard the metaphor that otters are the playful creatures of the universe. Otters play all the time. They are the ultimate representation of play. In this sense, the way otters are the playing creatures in our world, humans are the learning creatures. This is what we do. Every moment, all day, we're learning. Humans are not happy unless they're learning. Why? I don't know. It seems to be encoded in them. Learning is intrinsic to every human being. It's what they do. It's like breathing. Right? Your purpose in life is not to breathe. Yeah, breathing's pretty fundamental. You stop, your life doesn't go on much longer. But you don't come to this world to breathe. Well, I can't say that. There may be someone who just wants to experience breathing. That's why they come. Most of you, it will be something more significant. Family, love, relationship, loss. Something will be your purpose in coming to this lifetime. But you do not come here to learn. Learning, like breathing, is a natural, intrinsic part of you that you're simply not healthy and happy unless you're doing it. Does it make sense? All right, we have time for one more question. Eaglet. Quickly, lass. You're a shaper.
Feels scary.
What feels scary?
To keep being celebrating and still focus on doing more.
It feels scary, the things that I've talked about tonight, to hold integrity self and to begin to change your life. Good. Excellent. Means you're doing something right. You're feeling. Now, understand that 10, 20, 100 million years ago, I'm not a biologist, when our ancestors were little squishy things in some sort of soup, eating other little squishy things. The little squishy things that ate the stuff they knew was good for them, they lived longer, and they had children, or they split off and formed into other little squishy things. And their genetics got passed on. And when they were little rats or rodents or squirrels, the ones who went the places they always went, they were safe. And, they had kids, and those kids passed on their genetics. And those who said, I want to go out and walk across the open field and watch the hawks, they didn't get to pass on their genetics. Just didn't work. And so what's happened is, through millions of years of genetic development, your physical system, not just the physical body, but the etheric body, the energy that is tied to the physical body, that which keeps you alive, has learned that it's important to stay in the same place, to do the same things over and over, to do what you are familiar with, and only that. Because change can get you killed and you can't pass on your genetics. Recognize, though, that this isn't you. This isn't Khaton. This is genetics you are required to wear in order to play this life game. The skin, the body, the muscles you're required to live within. And that fear of change is encoded into the system. It's not who you are. So that fear of change will always be there. But there's a way you can fix it. You can't get rid of it, but you can fix it. When you're afraid, your guts tighten up. You start breathing, breathing faster, breathing shallow. Your muscles tense. Your pupils may dilate, take in more information. These are all physiological reactions. You may perspire. Now, when you're really excited about something, you get the same physiological reactions. Your guts can tense up and your breathing gets shallow and fast, and your toes may curl and you start sweating, and they're all the same physiological reactions, excitement and fear. So next time that you're starting to make changes in your life and you feel the fear come up, you can teach yourself, not here, but down here, you can teach yourself that thing that feels like fear, that's actually excitement. Something in me is really excited because a change is happening. And it doesn't make the fear go away. But as you begin to recognize the fear as actually being excitement, you begin to look forward to it. Oh, this means something cool is about to happen. I can't wait to see what it's going to be. Instead, oh no, it's a big scary thing that'll eat me. Right? You can make that fear into excitement. Now, with that said, we've gone an hour tonight, and I think that's enough of your time. Try these things. If you're willing, pick something that matters, and for 30 to 90 days, Khaton, Kamai, your choice of expression. Begin to practice the scanning. If you know what your fundamental perceptual modality is, practice with it. If you don't, then work with your teachers and the people around you and see if you can figure out what it is. Try lots of different ones. And you may find that for some things, smell works better, and some sound works better, some sight, some feel. You may find you use different modalities, but learn that modality. And if you do ken what your modality is, and if you recognize that this is the one I want to work with, then begin to practice it in your life. All day, every day, just use that in little bits. If you have sound going for you, Listen to somebody talking. See if you can hear a lie. Watch the microwave run. And listen not to the sound of it, but to the energy of it. And see what there is to see there. Watch a television show and use sound to interpret everything that's going on. Play a video game and use that sound to watch the energies move underneath it. Use your modality over and over and begin to build your database. And if any of you have a database of ideas, of perceptions already, then begin to practice the left-right, because this is where scanning truly begins. This is where the real beauty and power of it happens. And being able to use the left-right to walk through your database. That said, play with these things, have fun. Oh, and don't forget to try, just for fun, next 3 days. I see already someone here sitting with their legs crossed and somebody sitting with his hands crossed. So it's a habit. So, just for fun, to see that this integrity thing really changes your life, even with small stuff. Maybe play with this one for 3 days. All right? Good night. 58 minutes and 54 seconds.